Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wav Podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with the rogues who create it every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Facebook.com/WeAreRogueMatter and YouTube.com/RogueMatter. Download the podcast immediately following the live stream on all major podcasting apps. Join the movement. Go Rogue, RogueMatter.com. Tonight, we talk about the Super Bowl. Well, the trailers and the commercials and all that fun stuff. And whether or not Hassan actually even watched the game. Plus, we spin the racks a little bit, talking about Comixology's move, I was going to say, but maybe getting swallowed up by Amazon, Grant Morrison, and more. I am your host, Michael Dolce, as always, joined by my cohort in crime and the lord of the radio himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
I did watch the game.
You did?
I mean, yes, I did watch the game. I went away. I went out of the house into the ether and went to a friend's house and we watched. Now, ironically, I sat down in my friend's house and we got to talking, and we talked so long that we turned the game on in progress, but only a couple of minutes, like a few minutes in progress.
Sure.
But we missed the biggest trailers of the evening. I had to catch them all on YouTube. You know, like
I missed the Doctor Strange one at first. Yeah, I had to go back and watch that one.
Yeah, I think I saw the I saw Moon Knight. I know I saw Moon Knight. And what was the other one? What was it? It was Moon Knight, Doctor Strange.
There was Doctor Strange, Moon Knight, Lord of the Rings. There was I'm going to type this in, the Ryan Reynolds.
I did, and we did not see Lord of the Rings, and we did not see Doctor Strange. I ended up seeing those later.
Nope.
But,
Jordan.
Nope from Jordan Peele.
Yep. There's one. Oh boy, it's where he time travels back in the Adam Project. The Adam Project trailer. Did you see
Adam
that?
Project. No, I did. I saw that on my own.
Yeah,
because that was released slightly before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I did see that on my own, and we missed Lord of the Rings and we missed Doctor Strange, but we saw Moon Knight. We saw the trailer for Nope. And I saw the game. Just to answer your question, I did end up watching the game.
And we've got some other stuff to get into a little bit later. My overall impression of everything this year, right down to the game, I don't know if it's just my own personal situation. I was a little... I wasn't as hyped up this year. And again, this might just be my own subjective, like where my mindset was at the time of watching the Super Bowl. We went out for my wife's birthday on Friday, so maybe I was still tired from that because we don't ever go out anymore. It's amazing. But I overall, even the game, I was kind of like, all right, whoever wins, that's cool. Like there was nothing compelling about the game to me because there was no reason for me to dislike either team. And all of the commercials and trailers, I would literally tell you, the commercials felt a little weird. I hate it when companies decide, and this is as much as we'll get into the commercials, I think, with the exception of the pop culture commercials. I hate it when companies go super serious, and I'm not going to use the word political because that's not the right word, but they try to tap into social conversations. And it's like, no, entertain me. Show me the Sopranos kids reuniting, going down Newark. Show me that. Show me there was another.
They did do that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I enjoyed those commercials. Show me Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen, having what was basically an amazing 2-minute sketch. Get funny people in a room and have them design funny commercials. Don't give me, you can give me heart-wrenching, Budweiser does that with the Clydesdales, the horse that got hurt and and then the dog was really concerned, but the horse did it. Like, okay, I will afford some leniency for that. But ultimately, I don't want to be like the Super Bowl is one of those, you get to take a day off on your brain. And if you're a big football fan, if you're a big gambling fan, I won $300 on Super Bowl boxes. Awesome. It was amazing. Yeah. And if you're just a fan of like what's coming up for the year, because February tends to be a depressing month, especially if you live in like the Northeast or the Pacific Northwest or Canada, it's I just want to be entertained, and I want your commercials to entertain me. I don't want to know, how you're building a car that's gonna, save the world somehow, even though you're not really. You're just, I want like the Rocket Mortgage commercial with the Barbie. I thought that was really funny. Little things like that. So, but overall, I was not as impressed with the trailers and commercials as I think I have been. But again, that just might have been me.
There's a lot of cryptocurrency commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot, like to the point where it's like, Jesus, there's, like, am I imagining this, or is this like the fourth or fifth? And they're all from different companies.
Yes.
They're all different companies.
The QR code won the Super Bowl according to all the, the online talk.
Right.
Did you click it?
No.
I didn't either.
No. No, I did not.
I liked the Larry David cryptocurrency one too, now that you brought it
up. Yeah. It took a while for us to realize that was Larry David also. Yeah. Also, everything is ultra meta.
Yes.
Like everything ends with people floating ethereally into space. Like, all the financial planning, everything is like, when you're living in a crazy world. And then people at the end of the commercial, everybody's just floating away into the sky.
That was like a commercial for Salesforce, and I'm like, what the F? I'm like, Salesforce.
And I'm like, why is everything talking about, like, why is everything out of this world?
But that's my point. Like,
nothing
I don't
is
want
grounded.
That. You're not changing my life, especially not with Salesforce. Like, Salesforce is not changing.
Yeah, but and arguably they may not be talking to you. You may be in a secure spot where you're not receptive to the message.
I get that, but you're picking the one TV event of the year where you have the most people watching it. Mm-hmm. So if you just go by the numbers of how many decision-making executives there are, period, in a percentage of and versus like the mass people who would be into football, which is like, I have no data for this, but I'm estimating there are 5% of the audience are decision-making executives versus the 95% of the beer chugging.
That's not how this works.
Loving.
Well, you were going to do a commercial. If you were going to do a commercial, a TV spot or something like that, all you would want was like, where do I put this where it'd be seen by the most people? You're not going to study the audience. You're going to be like, I have this chunk of cash. What ad time can I buy that's going to get it seen by the most amount of people?
Yes.
And then which ad time is the best for that's famous for the ad time, so that people are actually going to be discussing the ads.
No, you're right. You're right. But as a non-recipient of said message, because the problem was I was into that commercial. I know exactly the commercial you're talking about. I'm like, ooh, I wonder what what? How to organize my sales contacts? That's not floating people into space. Like, what the hell? Like, that's not doing
That's
it.
what I'm talking about. Like, why? And I'm over there like, why are people floating into space again? Like, this is the third commercial in this commercial block where people are just floating off into the cosmos because they've invested in the right, bonds or some BS. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why is that part of the zeitgeist now? Yeah. Why is getting lifted and going up and away part of the, like, what does it say about where we are right now that everybody wants to make an investment and float away,
Yeah. Well, unless you're investing in float away technology, which in which case,
then it's just going to sink. So
funny story about crypto, though. By the way, so a good friend of mine who I went to college with, a good 6-7 years ago, we were on before we had kids, we'd go on an annual ski trip, and we went and we were talking, and he's basically like, you got to get into Bitcoin, and I'm like, it just sounds made up to me. Like, I'm like, you got to mine it? Like, what? I don't even understand what that means. I mean, I get what you're saying. I get this. There's some new technology. If you lose your phone, you lose it. Like, that's it. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around that. And I'm like, this is made up stuff. So I'm good. Like, I'm totally good.
And it's finite, isn't it? There's not an infinitum.
No, Bitcoin. Right, exactly right. Which is what gives it its value. It's basic economics, right? Supply and demand. There is a finite amount of Bitcoin out there. But
I understand it is the last person stuck with it is the one who gets killed, right? Like, you have to keep getting rid of it. You have to keep getting rid of it while there are other people who are interested in it.
Yes.
Because the last man to have the finite amount of Bitcoin it's going to be rendered worthless because no one has it, no one's after it. It's like the commodity is only a commodity because people want the commodity. And once they stop wanting it, it suddenly loses its value. It's like a lie. The value of it is a lie.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that, actually. I didn't know that that aspect. But I think
that's how it was explained to me. So I am absolutely no expert on this.
Right.
So, take it with a grain of salt.
What's really funny about it, though, is he basically, at that time, invested 75% of his life savings into it.
75, Jesus.
And he was pretty, like, he was an IT guy down in New York City, so he was pretty, we don't talk numbers. You're never supposed to talk numbers with friends. So, but I would guesstimate it was a good thing. Now, we've had him on the show before too. What he ended up doing, and we're gonna have him on again because I'm gonna bring him on to talk about NFTs in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned.
Okay.
We're gonna have him on next month. He amassed a gigantic following. Like, he dwarfs us. We had him on one time.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
When we were
we were in 72nd.
We were at talkradio.nyc, and we had the call-in capability, and people were calling in just to hear his talks on Bitcoin. So we had the opportunity to become, or I had the opportunity to become, a virtual millionaire. And at this point, I don't regret it. I really don't. I still don't, like, I still look at it like he's worth a bazillion virtual dollars. With no way of actually cashing this out in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know exactly what he's going to do.
There's actually a commercial with that where your guy's at an office and he looks at his phone, like, I'm a millionaire.
Right. Yeah.
I'm broke. In seconds later, he was broke. But it's just the strangest thing.
To tie this all together, the minute now everyone is talking about something, don't get in on it. That's my advice. The time to get in on it was when he said it. And so I'm not actually...
Yeah, before everybody started talking about it.
I personally don't regret not getting into it. I really don't. I'm sitting there going, like, what would I... Like, even if I had, 10 Bitcoin, which, yes, theoretically I'd be worth $650 million right now, or whatever, if I had 100 Bitcoin or whatever I had, I would be technically worth a chunk of money. I would have to go through the hassle of trying to cash it out. So anyway, I don't regret any of it. I think this is more like the .com era, where... Blockchain is here to stay, just like the internet was here to stay. But people don't know how to do it just yet. And I think Bitcoin is actually here to stay. I think, although talk to AOL, right? Like, they were the first, talk to Yahoo. They were the first to come along, and they eventually got usurped. Talk to MySpace. They got usurped in what would later become the internet. But I think the technology is here to stay. I wouldn't invest in it at this point, but.
Yeah, I'm going to have to just not know about it.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's too strange, and there's stranger other things in the world that require my attention.
I want
phantom money.
I want 2 pigs and a dozen eggs. Damn it, for my service. I want goods in exchange for services. Let's keep it simple. All right, let's talk about movie trailers. When we come back, we'll dive deep into the Doctor Strange trailer. There's some rumors floating around of peculiar voices and images, but I'll give you my biggest takeaway from that trailer, and we'll jump in and see which trailer grabbed us the most out of all the ones that came in when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wav Podcast. Just a reminder, go to roguematter.com, where all content is free. Everything on there. Comics, podcasts, such as the one you are consuming right now, videos, ebooks. It's all free. On the site right now is Key to the City, number 6. It's kind of like a quantum leap, but set only in New York City. Andy wakes up every morning at 6 a.m. in New York City and asks themselves 3 questions, always the same 3 questions. Where am I? Who am I? And what is my mission today? A guiding spirit guides him through New York City to help the city come alive and get better one person at a time. together, and that's the key. Check out Key to the City number 6. When one of Andy's greatest fears come to pass, the task of life-saving becomes a give and take. That is on roguematter.com right now. All right, we were talking Super Bowl commercials. Super Bowl commercials.
And trailers.
But we're going to dive into trailers now, because that's... Yeah. I think that's what our audience is looking for when it comes to this stuff, right? Am I correct in saying?
I would agree with that. I would say that they're probably looking for that stuff. Probably waiting for us to stop yapping about NFTs and hear about.
We're gonna go full NFT. We're gonna have Tone Bays on in a couple.
Yeah, but right now, they're here to hear about what you think about Doctor Who. At least Doctor Strange, Doctor Who. Oh my God.
So, would you agree or disagree that Doctor Strange was probably the most talked about trailer?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Maybe second was Lord of the Rings, and then third was Moon Knight, or flip Moon Knight and Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, it depends on what the nature of the discussion is, and that's about as deep as I'll get into that. But, that's the only thing that would make it
just in terms of pure volume, pure volume of conversation, right?
Yeah.
So the big Doctor Strange thing, that's the technical term for discussion, was that Patrick Stewart's voice in the trailer, and was it teasing Marvel's Illuminati? Marvel has done such an amazing job of, and I'll read from this article from comicsbeat.com in a second, has done an amazing job of, every movie is just a trailer for the next movie. And every trailer is a trailer for the movie that's going to be a trailer for the next movie.
Yes. Yeah.
So we get the formula now. And now, I know you didn't agree with me last week on this. I understand now that every Star Wars show is also now teasing the next Star Wars show, where, again, to me, the Disney Plus Star Wars shows are kind of new to me. And, me kind of separating animation from live action, I didn't quite pick that up. Now I can expect it coming forward.
Yeah, just pay attention to the first line of every one of the titles of the show. The first
Very true.
Star Wars. Star Wars: The Mandalorian. Star Wars: The Bad Batch.
Well, actually, I'll do you one. I'll do you one better. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. There you
go. It's all this gigantic fairy tale that takes place. Yeah.
Correct. So I will not be as caught off guard. But one of the big things now in the Doctor Strange trailer. So again, tip my hat to Marvel for doing this, but quite a few new tidbits can be gleaned from the Super Bowl trailer as the upcoming Hasbro toys revealed Rintrah, the green magical minotaur who debuted in the comics as a loyal friend to Doctor Strange, will be appearing in the film and can be glimpsed in the new trailer. Without a doubt, though, fan theories are going crazy around a mysterious council that briefly appears in the Multiverse of Madness trailer. It definitely has some shades of the TVA from Loki, but it is doubtful it has anything to do with the TVA. What's more, a voice that sounds distinctly like that of Sir Patrick Stewart is heard, and it goes without saying that Stewart is no stranger to Marvel, having portrayed Professor Charles Xavier in the X-Men franchise. Could this be Disney's attempt to finally, and now I'm paraphrasing, incorporate mutants into the MCU, but also a form of the Illuminati, of which he was a member of in the comics as well too. The Illuminati was a comic book created by Brian Michael Bendis. It took all of the major thought leaders in the Marvel universe, Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Professor X, and put them together on a council, and essentially does what any Illuminati does: play us all like pawns, and guide the course of humanity. There's also the fact that we see some kind of Iron Legion robots apprehending Strange, who, by the way, looked like Ultraman to me. You know the character Ultraman?
Yes, I know Ultraman. Yeah.
Am I off base by saying?
Yeah.
When did Ultraman show up? Damn, Marvel, you've got it. You're so good. you're connecting everything.
They're just swallowing franchises left and right. They're just taking over everything.
My big takeaway from these trailers, though, so far with Doctor Strange, I am after the boner that we got from WandaVision and the not so secret appearance of Daredevil in Spider-Man No Way Home, I am content to just let this happen whenever it happens. I am content to try to judge each Marvel movie as its own movie and not as a trailer for the next movie. I'm content to just leave it be. What I am impressed with, though, from this trailer is how much, because if you go back to previous episodes of the show, I'm on record as saying I'm not interested in this What If series because I don't think they're going to tie an animated series into a live action movie. However,
yeah, your animation bias, though.
I do have an animation bias. Yes, yeah. I absolutely do. I tend to, based on a track record of, with the exception of the Clone Wars being maybe the only exception, and even then I didn't need to watch the Clone Wars to really, get the Star Wars prequel movies. I feel as if it's not as important to me as maybe watching the Loki series or the WandaVision series, or the Falcon and Winter Soldier series to know, what exactly is going on. But now,
what did you learn?
I'm walking away. Yeah, I'm walking away from this trailer saying, okay, I am more impressed now with the inference that we're going to be experiencing stuff from the animated universe as well.
I think you got to look at it in the context of, like, we touched on it a little bit about, capitalism and all this stuff. Well, you got to look at it as in the context of a business model, right?
Mm-hmm.
The workable model of that has arguably made the MCU so successful is that everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, in order to continue the success of that model, it seems like it stands to reason they would lean into that interconnectivity even harder as we go forward, especially as we start to get into the realm of more obscure titles that are not as, that is not as household friendly as, say, the Avengers or Iron Man or, the Hulk or, Spider-Man. So, we're doing things with Shang-Chi. We're doing things with, Doctor Strange is a very popular title amongst comic book, aficionados. But he doesn't have he doesn't have a mainstream movement, where a casual, kid in first grade would know who Doctor Strange is, like they would know Batman, right? So now, since we're going to lean into that, we're going to get more Doctor Strange movies. Finally, we're getting a Doctor Strange sequel that's going to lean into WandaVision. They're probably going to lean even more into having it all be connected than they are.
Yeah.
With flirting with, some shows being satellite shows, and some shows taking place in their own universe. And now we've got the multiverse, which is now claiming even franchises and properties that weren't even in the MCU, that predate the MCU. So now the sky's the limit, but all of it's going to be connected. I think that's the push for the entire thing. That's the end of my rant.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I think, as always, now you got the DC trailer, which we had actually seen a couple days earlier, which I hate that. Like, why are you paying for all this exposure if you're just going to release stuff online prior to it? It just...
Because not everybody watches the Super Bowl. It's a big,
everyone does.
It's a big thing, but some people, like, they technically release it at the same time. Anyone who's at the Super Bowl for that experience will get the experience, but people who miss the Super Bowl will just be able to look it up.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just a way of skinning a cat. I don't know.
I get releasing it after the fact, but it's like, the impact I feel like is totally lost. When...
Yeah, but I've never seen a trailer on YouTube that hasn't aired on Super Bowl night first. Like, I've never seen a trailer online that either the trailer drops simultaneous with whenever it premieres or moments after. So they still get the initial boom out of it, I think. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
Moon Knight debuted. Another Moon Knight trailer. It definitely looked kind of cool.
It looks like it looks interesting, and it's got Oscar Isaac in it. And I trust him as, like,
I do too.
Who's gonna follow a good story, So
Although, why should we trust Oscar Isaac? I mean, he has been in two of the most critically panned movies of all time in this realm, in X-Men Apocalypse and Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker and the Last Jedi.
And what I'll say about Last Jedi is that was the most critically divisive one, because you have people that still swear by that movie, even though it's garbage, and you have people who, again, fall into the camp that we do where we think it's garbage. But I think there's a universal like groan when it comes to the Rise of Skywalker, and there is a definite groan in addition to poor box office receipts for X-Men Apocalypse. So the people have voted.
Yeah, there's Apocalypse not a.
So maybe we shouldn't have faith in Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, but I mean, there's Dune. There was
he's a good actor too. We're not saying that, but
there was the Llewellyn Davis movie what he did with the Coen brothers. There's a Sucker Punch. There's I mean, there's Oscar Isaac. There's Annihilation. There's the Oscar Isaac is extensive. He's he was in the Robin Hood movie, for goodness sake. That's the first movie I ever saw him in. So I mean, he's okay.
Yeah,
he does well.
Right. Yeah, he all right. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully hopefully.
And he's another one of these guys that looks young and old at the same time. So he can play young. Because Poe seems like he was really young. So he seems like maybe he was 30. Maybe.
Yes.
But then you've seen him play, guys in their 40s, or, guys like really seasoned, middle-aged guys. So he's got one of those, he's got a gift of one of those physiques and one of those faces where he could fit in anything that you put him in. So
I gotta tell you,
I'm a fan of Oscar Isaac, so I'm all right with it.
I gotta tell you though, the trailers to me, and this is not the fault of Moon Knight itself, because take it on its own, I actually think it's a pretty good. It looks kind of cool in that sense, but I gotta tell you, and this coincides with what trailer I thought was the best or the one that got my attention the most, was the Adam Project with Ryan Reynolds for Amazon Prime, and we'll talk about the Lord of the Rings trailer as well. The reason I enjoyed the Adam Project trailer was because it was something new. And the Moon Knight stuff, while, yes, I'm a fan of comic books and I grew up on this stuff, and if my 12-year-old, self were to hear me right now, he'd be like, shut your mouth! But there's just too much superhero content out there.
You let your 12-year-old talk to you like that?
Oh, yeah, he wouldn't take my ass.
Shut up. Shut up, Dad.
There's just like, after a while, I'm like, we got Batman coming out, and I just watched the Black Adam trailer, and the age of CGI now. I look, I'm not knocking it. I'm not, because yes, again, I would be thrilled with this if I was 12, and this is a 12-year-old euphoria, cornucopia. I'm gonna try to do my best.
Big words.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to use my best big words to like soften the blow of what I'm about to say. But even I'm kind of like, dude, I want something new. I want something original. Like, we know, no matter how enjoyable and palatable the MCU is, ultimately, the surprise is not in the concept of any of this stuff. The surprise comes in the trailer aspect or the shock surprise, like Spider-Man No Way Home having the original two Spider-Man from the previous movies, or, which character are we going to see from the comics, or what storyline are they going to set up? But to me, that's different than watching something like the Adam Project going like, wow, this looks different. I've never seen something like this before.
Oh yeah, here's a question though. Like, is it new to you because it's not comic books, or is it new to you because it genuinely seems like a fresh concept?
I think it's both. I think it's much harder for me right now to take in a superhero / overtly comic book movie, because look, comic books, we know, can be can be fantasy, can be crime, can be whatever. I'm talking about the superhero genre, or the overt sci-fi supernatural comic book, popcorn-esque type show, where I just feel like, all right, it nothing about it excites me in the way where, as opposed to, again, seeing the Adam Project trailer, or even Jordan Peele's Nope trailer, which didn't give you much, but felt like, all right, that's not superhero. Right away. I'm like my eyes kind of like widened, my ears perked a little bit. The Adam Project, I'm you from the future. What a simple concept. It's been done before, but it looks cool because I haven't seen something like that.
That's what I was going to say. Like, it's not really that original a concept, you know?
It's not. But again, there's how many original concepts there are, but it's something, it was delivered in a way that was like, okay, I'm on board. This is not superheroes. So immediately to me was like, wow, Amazon's investing in something original, something that I don't know if it has a file. I don't know if it's based off a book. Maybe it is.
There's plenty of original stuff on Amazon, though. You know, like this is like that argument. It's not your argument, but that argument, I get it. But that's like people saying there's no good new music out. You know, but they're only listening to the to the main. They're only listening to their favorite channel on Sirius. Or they're only listening to, like, you know, I don't know what the current local rock station
but isn't
like that.
But isn't that the idea though? Like, it's not. No, but you gotta go shown front and center to something where, you know, I don't have to work hard to find something new. You're actually promoting and presenting a commercial, the biggest watched event, and you're showing actually something new. You're taking that opportunity to introduce me to something new, and I actually applaud that.
Free Guy. What about Free Guy? You know, which was actually a big hit, and I mean, I'm just saying it's not unprecedented for that stuff to happen. What's unprecedented is when they do well, because they tend not to do so well.
It's a huge risk. It is an absolute huge risk, and I get it. And I understand why we have
movie, as a matter of fact, you know,
I understand the why of it. I'm just saying that, but now, because we've been saturated with it and I've been saturated with it, I immediately, when you are going to present something new to me, I'm going to immediately be perked up more than not.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with that. I think my point is that I don't necessarily agree that there are different things out there that, you know, that they've been presenting like different things, you know. It's just I just don't think they do well, you know. So that's now, and I'm not against it, you know. I'm not saying, well, they don't do well because we've moved on beyond that, because that's not how it is. The pendulum will swing again. So and comic book movies would be out just as quick as they came in, you know. But and you know, that make that apparently even saying that is a career killer all over the place. But I don't have a career, so you know they can stuff it.
I have to pay you. I just remember.
Yeah, you do. So I'm gonna go.
Oops. And that was the Rogue Wav Podcast tonight. Thank you guys. It's been really good.
But I just don't agree that there's not, you know, that this stuff isn't out and about, you know, that it's there. It's just we don't notice it. Mm-hmm. You know, this is probably the first one you've noticed, you know. And I don't know why it's Ryan Reynolds. I cannot stand Ryan Reynolds. I mean, I can't stand him.
I love him, and I also don't think any movie he's been in, with the exception of Deadpool and Van Wilder, is really any good, which sucks, because I love him as a person. Got to interview him many years ago. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Really good dude. Really awesome dude. An entrepreneur. Like, so much to love about him. His movies never do it for me either. I agree with you.
Well, okay. Just to clarify, I don't dislike him. I dislike I dislike the aura or the affect that he celebrates, where he takes nothing seriously. Mm-hmm. Everything is a kind of joke, and everything is an obscure, like, kind of geeky, you know, sex joke or something like that. Everything is like very frat boy humor, and after a while, that grates on me.
Yeah,
and that has become him. You know, that's become his thing that he's done. Ryan Reynolds has been Ryan Reynolds in more things than he has been someone other than Ryan Reynolds.
Correct.
Know?
Yes.
I think one of the only movies I ever saw him in was Safe House with Denzel Washington, where he was like a CIA agent. And that was the only movie I saw him in where he wasn't being Ryan Reynolds. He was actually actor Ryan Reynolds in a film. And I actually enjoyed that, you know. But that's his thing. I mean, he found gold with Deadpool, because that is Ryan Reynolds to the bone, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, so that was an intrusive sidebar, and I apologize. But I'm just thinking Free Guy, and now we're this new movie that you're. What's the name of it again for the audience?
The Adam Project.
The Adam Project. Which is, in spite of my dislike of Ryan Reynolds' affect, I'm interested in seeing what the Adam Project is all about. It's gonna be good. It looks like a good special effects sci-fi extravaganza, so it'll be something fun to watch, and it's gonna come to my television. I don't have to go to it. That's another wonderful aspect of it, and it's not far away. It's in March. It's not far off. It's not one of those trailers that they show us 9 months before the actual movie comes out and you forget all about it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So, I hear you, but I just don't think they're as rare as you say they are, but I do acknowledge your comment about it being, interesting because it's something different.
Yeah.
I hear you. Speaking
of Amazon, the other major trailer, and we'll wrap this up with this, is the Lord of the Rings trailer for their new series. They seem to be going, they are going all in on the new Lord of the Rings series.
We've been hearing about that for a long time, though, right?
With the exception of The Authority, I feel like, did you hear the news? It was a couple weeks ago that YouTube is essentially not doing any more original programming. They've stopped doing original programming. They basically have dissolved that that side of their business. And the reason I bring that
because,
up,
Cobra Kai started on YouTube.
Correct. Yes, that was one of their first endeavors into it. Yeah. The reason I bring that up, and I don't think Amazon's going this direction. Obviously, they're doubling down and going all in. And Netflix is investing tons into their new projects as well too, though. Is that, with the exception of The Boys, do we know of another hugely buzzworthy show or movie on Amazon Prime?
There's Jack Reacher that did well enough, and it got its own. It's got a second season.
Okay.
There was The Expanse, which was magnificent, but it just ended. It did end its run.
Yeah.
I don't know. I use Amazon a lot of times to watch other channels because you can tune in other channels through Amazon. So you could you used to be able to get HBO through Amazon. You can't anymore because they dropped out, but you can still get Showtime or, CBS.
But take away the multi-functionality of Prime. I use it to get packages in 2 days. That's honestly the fact that they have all these videos, movies and TV shows is kind of like a bonus for me because my wife and I use it to get packages in 2 days. But take away the multi-functionality of it and just look at it as a streamer. I feel like it's the number.
Well, it's got Yellow Jackets, it's got Anna, it's got Jack Reacher, it's got Miss Maisel, which is it's about to go into its fourth season.
I feel like it came out of the gate strong, but I feel like lately I would rate it as I would say behind the Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Netflix in no particular order. But
why would you put it there?
In terms of buzzworthy shows, and in terms of just, I almost forget that Amazon Prime has original programming sometimes, and that's just my feeling on it. I just don't feel like I read about it as much. I don't feel like I see much, but this Super Bowl commercials were actually, or the Super Bowl trailers, having 2 Amazon Prime ones. I was actually kind of, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about Amazon.
I mean, there's also, there's a ton of stuff on there. I'm
not disagreeing with you. I'm just feeling lately, in the past 6 months to a year, they've taken a back seat. Once The Boys was done, they've taken a back seat to all the other streamers.
It's a new Boys animated TV show coming out.
Oh my God. Yeah. They're spinning that
on Amazon. There's a Vox Machina, which is another great show, which I didn't even bother to mention to you because it's another cartoon and I don't even want to go through it. But
based on the Brian K. Vaughan comic?
No. It's based on a Critical Role. It was a kickstarted cartoon series, animated series, based on the Critical Role's game campaigns. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I just don't agree with you. It's a pretty viable network. It's got a lot of stuff. There's still brand new things coming to it. Like I said, Jack Reacher just dropped, and people were buzzing about that for weeks. So,
okay,
you check it out some more.
What was your impression of the trailer for Lord of the Rings?
It looked interesting. I'm happy it kept a lot of the Peter Jackson aesthetics, because I think those are the gold standard for the visual representation, the live action representation of the Tolkien books at the moment. So it's good that the show seems to be leaning into the aesthetics so that they're related in some way, so that you can kind of get your Lord of the Rings movie experience back while watching the TV show, because spoiler kids, Lord of the Rings was over 20 years ago already, so it is what it is now. So that looked good. I mean, the rest of it, it's in an era that's not all that researched or explored in the Lord of the Rings lore, so that leaves them open for a lot of things. There's a lot of criticism of some of the stuff they're doing. Whatever. So, I'm very interested in seeing it. I hope it doesn't fizzle out. I hope it doesn't try so hard to lean into the Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Wheel of Time is another one that again, I think did fizzle out in terms of.
No, it didn't. It did really well. It got a second season. People are talking about it. It's just not on social media. You gotta just look outside of social media, because as we said, then? Well,
are you picking up a?
But you gotta look in the circles that's in. After it buzzes out, the mainstream people are going to move on, but the people who support it are going to be constantly talking about it. Why would it get another season? I'm just saying, that's Amazon. That Wheel of Time just happened.
Yeah.
So and now they're going to have the Lord of the Rings. So I mean, they're going to try to corner the market on the high fantasy stuff.
Right.
They've also got Carnival Row. I think season 2 is coming maybe sometime this year. So, yeah, Amazon's still a player, pretty much of a big player.
I guess I needed the Super Bowl to remind me of that, and that's, again, that could be my own personal bubble, just not necessarily one that I've taken notice of. What do you guys think? Drop your impressions of the Super Bowl trailers into the feed. When we come back, we go spinning the racks. We've got Grant Morrison stuff. We've got Comixology stuff. We will get through it all when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wav Podcast. We are huge fans of comic books and comic book creators ourselves. And every once in a while, we like to dive into all the news and dive into books we think you should be reading. We call this segment Spinning the Racks. Spin the rack, spin that rack. I've got the head bob. When I got the Jim Carrey head bob when I listen to that song. Our podcast listeners can't actually see me, but it's very evident when I'm shifting back and forth.
And they thank the stars that they are spared that visual.
Quite possibly, you could be right. If you were on Twitter today, one of the trending topics was Grant Morrison. Now, a little sidebar for a split second here. I recently read the Doom Patrol Omnibus by Grant Morrison. So wow, I thought perhaps I somehow caused him to be trending, because in my bubble, what is happening in my world then, kind of exudes out into the cosmos, and then
conjured him from whole cloth.
Right.
Okay.
And I've been consuming the Doom Patrol TV show finally, so I'm in season 2 now of that as well too. I'm a little bummed.
Ozarks?
Hang on, we'll get to Ozark. I need a break from Ozark. I told you, season 3 was too much of an emotional roller coaster, and that that ending was like, and I started episode 4, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. I need time to recharge. I literally need time to. I need mind garbage to get myself psyched up. So the Ozark challenge is ongoing. I will get to season 4. But man, season 3 was just too much. I need time. I need time to kind of process and think about how it made me feel as a person, and then I'll dive back in. So I'm watching Doom Patrol. It's been a lot of fun. But then I heard freaking Daredevil now is going off Netflix, and I still haven't finished season 3, so I have to get on that now. I'm still in the middle of Cobra Kai.
You've only got like 2 weeks.
I know. I don't think it's going to happen. I just started watching episode 1 again because I don't remember anything from season 3. So I watched the recap. It's the one show I loved. The Punisher one. I watched both seasons of the Punisher on Netflix. I enjoyed that, though. I think it's as close as I've come to a faithful Punisher adaptation. Not saying it was a completely faithful adaptation, but it was pretty close. So I like Punisher because he's not a superhero. Kind of going back to what we said last segment,
right?
But I digress. So anyway, I reread Doom Patrol. Grant Morrison is just fantastic. One of the things I'm going to do is reread the new X-Men run that he did because he's just phenomenal. And I'm going to try to get into the JLA stuff, even though I'm not a DC guy. The Authority is another one where I think I gotta sink my teeth into stuff that he's done. But apparently, he has been chatting away about his time with DC, and he went on now he does this on Substack. So this is definitely a little different than this. Isn't necessarily stuff that he's like advertising outside of his own, paywall, subscribe to my newsletter. So I think someone on Twitter even commented the fact that we're not even discussing the fact that people are sharing Grant Morrison's newsletter without his permission. But he talked about the different takes on superheroes. And one of the things he talked about is, I question the desire to attribute the worst aspects of human behavior to characters whose only useful function, as I see it, aside from simply entertaining young people and anyone else who fancies an uplifting holiday in a storybook world, far from the grinding monotony of pessimism and disillusion, is to provide a primary colored cartoon taste of how we all might be if we had the wit and the will and the self-sacrifice it takes to privilege our best selves and loftiest aspirations over our base instinct. While that great day is unlikely to happen anytime soon, in any halfway familiar real world, why not let comic book universes be playgrounds for the kind of utopian impulses that have in the past brought out the best in us? Essentially saying, and I can find more quotes from him that are there, why aren't we just letting characters be optimistic like Superman? Why don't we just let Superman be Superman and stop questioning how in this modern world there would ever be a Superman? And it's talking about Superman and Supergirl becoming a fascist, Superman, again, going dark, which is, I guess, one of the things that was supposed to happen during the DC 5G stuff, in which he objected to, questioning how can, he even says it in one of his things, how can Batman possibly run a multi-million-dollar corporation by day and somehow fight crime at night? It's amazing because I have literally been thinking about this, watching the trailers for the new Batman movie. The reason I think Batman, while can be awesome on screen, but can so easily not be, is that it just wouldn't happen. Like during the COVID, during COVID, during the George Floyd protests, there was this viral video of like protests happening, and I think it was in Portland, and there were some things, there was some fires and whatever, and there was some disarray. And there's a guy dressed as Batman, like walking through it. And I'm sitting there going like, there is no way, like in the comics, you'd be like, yeah, Batman, yeah, that's great. You're there. You're there to like, maybe restore order or support the protesters, or you're there to stop the Joker who's taking advantage of everything. Great. But seeing it in real life, I'm like, that dude's nuts. Like that dude's just crazy.
He should be in his jet.
Right. He should
not be on the ground wandering around in his bat suit. He really should.
But again, my point being is that like Batman in the real world, no matter how cool it theoretically could be, no matter how great it might be to pull it off, and I think Christopher Nolan did as admirable a job as possible. I think, Tim Burton in the first movie did as admirable a job. I think the Robert Pattinson movie is doing, just from what we've seen, an admirable job. There is still that base instinct of, these are just comic book characters. Just let them be comic book characters. So in that regard, I kind of wholeheartedly agree with Grant Morrison that, you know, while allegorical comics like The Boys, you know, are taking cliches we know of in comic books and kind of spinning it, like, but that's the whole premise of the book. Doing that with Superman, the actual Superman, doing that with Spider-Man, you know, the actual Spider-Man books. I don't get the same joy, I think, reading them today as I did, and part of it is I'm not 14 anymore, I'm not 12 years old anymore, I get it, but also, after a while, spinning these characters on its heel, and again, in his words, you know, appealing to the darkest nature of humanity versus, you know, just kind of having fun, you know, battling supervillains, we're missing that. I think I can agree with what he said.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I think that's what happens though when you kind of chase spectacle as opposed to chasing characters. You know, like when your characters are gonna rise and fall, ebb and flow the way the character, you know, the way the character's natural progression through whatever narrative is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And if you can, the goal in most storytelling is just to keep that as, you know, as feeling realistic or as natural as humanly possible, so that there's not a lot of absurdities that kill the immersion of the audience, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these guys, you know, because it's become a business, I don't know the right solution, the right or wrong of it.
Yeah.
Because it's become a business, people are actually chasing spectacle. They're chasing bigger and better, you know, larger set pieces and, you know, crazier premises and, you know, wilder aspects of you know, of our classic stories, to, you know, to compete sometimes with themselves in a large market, right? So that's why you get this stuff. Now, like I said, we've argued before about the Overton window, and like, is this a trend that needs to be fixed, or is this just the way the world is moving towards, you know, and we don't know. I mean, my position on it isn't any more right or wrong than yours, right? So all we can acknowledge is that we would rather it be a different way, right?
Right.
And so I completely agree with you. I know where it comes from. I know why it happens for the most part, because it's a corporate machine that's a grinder. I don't necessarily have anything against it, but I'm not for it. I understand it. I just don't know how we would fix it. You know, you can't tell 150 writers, so look, you need to love your characters more, and then better stories will come out. You can't really dictate that to people, right? So sometimes you'll get Frank Miller's Daredevil, where he really saw the promise and the depth of that character, and he elevated. Yes. And then sometimes you'll get a Bendis where, you know, in my opinion, so I speak for me, not for the show, his way of hacking into stories is just to overwrite, you know, and to overexpress and so I mean, a lot of that stuff becomes a little samey sometimes.
But ultimately, I think you nailed it though when you said it's up to the writers to love their characters. And I do think there are writers that take on characters with the express purpose of, I don't buy this and I don't get this, so I'm gonna do it and
deconstruct it.
Yeah,
that is ironically how I felt Christopher Nolan approached Batman, which is why I don't really like those movies so much, you know? So, yes, look, I stopped reading X-Men when they gave, as I've said, when they gave Angel his wings back, you know?
Well, you got out early.
Yes, I did. But I mean, my attitude is like, any new artist is going to come along is just trying to make his own name. He didn't come on to do X-Men. He came on to make a name for himself by doing X-Men, you know? So I know this ruins our fucking show. Ding. Ding. But I agree with you 100%. I just don't know. I don't know if us asking for a solution for it makes us the man who's yelling at a crowd. You know?
This is something else he went into, and it said to undermine the fundamental appeal of superheroes like Superman and Supergirl by recasting them as anti-heroes at best, or outright monsters, because apparently Supergirl was supposed to be like a Nazi or something like that, dragging imaginary childhood paragons off their pedestals to reinforce a fairly facile point about the tendency of real-world heroes to exhibit feet of clay, struck me and strikes me still as imaginatively lazy, using kids' adventures kids' adventure heroes to make hackneyed observations about typical human behavior that does not in fact apply to made-up comic book characters strikes me as, I don't know, whimsical, dilettantish, a squandering of energy and creativity. I got to also say, Grant Morrison uses extremely too many big words for me.
I think it's dilettantish.
He needs to tie that. He needs to tone that down like right now.
I agree with him, but that is what happens when you mass produce art. You know, the comics are a mass production of art, right? Yeah. You know, on a smaller scale than say movies and music, but it is still the mass production of of a medium.
Yeah.
And so you're just gonna get a percentage of, subpar quality story affects and stuff like that. Yeah. And some people are gonna move on. Some people are gonna go on to do their own thing. You know, they're gonna leave the industry. They're gonna take their creativity with them. So the middling guys are gonna be the ones who are gonna be elevated into the creative positions. And some of them don't see comic books as anything other than the stuff I read when I was a kid that I loved. Mm-hmm. And I just want to do more of the same so that I could be amongst those old heroes of mine.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are coming to the medium going, how can I change this medium for the better? How can I apply some creative? I mean, comics have been creatively static. The format of comics in themselves, other than switching over to digital, mm-hmm. and then a lot of people making their own motion comics, have been creatively static for decades, right? It hasn't had. When's the last comic book innovation? I think the last one is computer coloring. That's the last big innovation that's come into the production of comic books into themselves.
Yeah.
So I mean, no one's really the entire industry is suffering from a failure of imagination. So I don't disagree, but I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how you can make your creators love what they're doing on a mass scale. No one's ever.
I think it starts at the top. I really do. I think it starts at the top. I think employing non-cynical people in the head positions, because I think editorial tends to drive a lot of this stuff. I think bringing in new talent into these positions is also one of the keys. I think when you get fresh eyes and fresh voices and people who haven't been there and done that for so long, because that's the other problem. And I notice this in myself too, right? So I'm speaking from internally as well. It takes a lot for me to get as hyped up for the Marvel comics that I used to love, not necessarily because of the content, though some of it is not great, not because of the creators, though some of them are not great, but more in line of I've been there, done that. So that if that kind of attitude sits at the top of we've been there, done that, or even if a fresh voice comes in and says we've been there, done that, I want to change this and I want to bring this other fresh perspective, that therein is kind of where the issue is. On our sister podcast, Wednesday Forever, which is hosted by myself and Victor Dandridge, we interviewed Fabian Nicieza about X-Force #1, and what he said is, we knew we were making comics for 14-year-old boys. And I actually love that was the mindset going in. So they weren't worried about it. It was like kind of like a Michael Bay movie, and Liefeld's art, lends itself to that kind of mentality. And I thought it was awesome. And I still look back at those X-Force comics and there's magic in there. But I think it started at the top where they realized, like, hey, look, we're not trying to make like Mouse, like we're not trying to make the next Watchmen. We're trying to make something that we think 14-year-old boys are going to really love. And it doesn't have to be 14-year-old boys, but that was just who the demographic.
Yeah, but I mean, they're also not. I mean, by his admission, they're not trying to expand the audience, which seems to be what comic books are trying to do now to get back to their original market share, right?
Yeah.
So I like I'm saying, like it's a dilemma, and since we are not, and I do not say this to denigrate our position on it. Mm-hmm. Since we are not business owners of that caliber, we don't know why the decisions are being made on that level. A lot of it could be ignorance or just tone deafness, but some of it could be desperation. A lot of it smells like desperation to me, And when you're manufacturing art, it's just, I don't know how you make people love what they're being paid to do. That it's It's
so
hard,
you've
man.
just
Really
inspired me, by the way, because I figured it out. We're going to do a Kickstarter campaign to buy Marvel Comics.
That'll do it.
I don't know why we didn't see this before.
Yeah, that is an excellent use of our time.
Let's not reach for Marvel because they are very interconnected to Disney. Let's just try to buy DC Comics because they're already farming most of their stuff out anyway.
Well, why don't we buy Dark Horse and then we could just be number 3? We could be the bigger number 3. We can compete with Image. We can knock Image out. Be the biggest number 3 there is. Or is that aiming too low? I don't know about.
Yeah, no. Let's aim
fighting with
Warner
Brothers and AT&T to deal with DC Comics. I don't know if we want to do that either. I don't know if we want to anger those people.
Considering there are actual Kickstarter projects for Batman that is not done by DC, and then Kickstarter seems to just not notice that they're there. I think we could pull this off. I don't think anybody.
Well, now they know. Now there's now you've just outed them. Nice work.
Well, good.
Nice work.
Although I got to applaud people because after a while you're like, I could do Batman better, and you're like, I'm just going to go Kickstarter. I'm going to do Batman better.
Do Batman, but make him mole, man. You just change the way he looks. Do the exact same comic, just change his costume.
That was our show for tonight. We did not get into Comixology, but we will get into that another time. We'll probably bring a guest on to talk about that because it's pretty exciting. In 2 weeks, we've got an exciting event going on in LA. I'll be in Los Angeles for the Rogue Matter kickoff event. So there's some cool stuff. And again, go to roguematter.com. All the stuff up there is free. There's comics, ebooks, and podcasts, and a whole bunch of more stuff coming. Check it out. Next week, now I teased it last week, but then I thought about it. The Super Bowl commercials and the trailers was a much better topic, more timely. But the Peacemaker finale is Thursday. So we're going to dive into the Peacemaker finale next week. But we're also going to do the verses. Now, I haven't figured out how we're going to name this. We might name the segment verses, or I was going to say pick a tribe, because everything's tribe these days. So, we'll tweak the name of the segment. But we are going to do the mascot on mascot violence of Grogu versus Eagly versus Baby Groot. And I'm going to have to find a third voice. So we'll have a surprise mystery guest to come on and discuss that angle. We'll see you guys next week.
Rogue Wave.